thing, a very kind of daring move to have the lead of your film for the climax. They cannot talk, so that's unusual to have that for like, the biggest name in the film. And the emoting, he still gets so much emotion from him without the use of his voice. Like even just the typing in the pad. I know that Ed Harris isn't giving that performance, but you get so much emotion just from the typing somehow. For like, gotta stay a while, and it was a one-way trip, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a very Armageddon-esque.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I liked how his typing got progressively worse too.
Yes.
But you could still kind of figure out what he was saying, and I do. I like all of that, and I love the ending. Mm-hmm. And they're like, and when he says, "There's lights down here. It's really light," and you're like, "Oh God, he's hallucinating."
Howdy.
Fair enough.
Howdy.
But that special effects. So I've been reading about the special effects and how they accomplish that, and it would be wildly boring to talk about. But if you go on any, like, it won the Oscar for best visual effects, and when you go to like visual effects artists' favorite shots, the shot from Abyss is in there. So I think, this is what led to T2. This is what led to Jurassic Park. Like, this was such. Yes, there were visual effects beforehand, but this was such a revolutionary moment in film. So I don't know. I guess I applaud it for that as well. I could watch a documentary on the making of that chase, undersea chase, because all the miniatures. I love miniatures in films. I love little sets. Like, I love looking at that stuff because it's just, it makes me so happy.
Well, I think that's how most of Lord of the Rings was done, was with miniatures. Their miniatures were massive, but I mean, most, like Minas Tirith, Helm's Deep, they built the sets for it too. But for doing all the wide panning shots, they did a lot of that with miniatures, and I think it's fantastic. But you see that a lot again. I think we're starting to see a lot more of that happen in film again now, and I'm appreciating it.
Absolutely, because I mean, I guess nowadays it's probably easier just to put it up on some blue screen, but I do love the art of miniatures. I love that stuff. Like, it's just because it's such, I don't know. I think it's such a neat workaround. I appreciate that all, and I dig that Cameron worked on miniatures on Escape from New York, so I kind of appreciate that old school aesthetic. I don't know how much, like, matte paintings. Oh, The Green Knight used matte paintings, which made me so happy just to like see some matte paintings in a movie. So I only had a $15 million budget, so we had to get creative. But I kind of dig that stuff. Like but like you said earlier, Heather, like, it was a $15 million movie, so they had to get creative with things. So I dug how they handled that with that budget. So it just made me happy.
Nice.
And go watch Crawl.
Yes.
$15 million.
Do it. So, silly question. Do we reckon this film deeper and bluer than Deep Blue Sea?
Oh, yes.
This film was
average depth.
Well, this film was filmed deeper than Deep Blue Sea.
I think they go like, oh God, what was it? Was it like 2,000?
Okay.
No, am I thinking 20?
I've worked this out.
10? Oh.
Don't worry. I watched the film.
Okay.
They talk about it in the film. They say that the submarine is about 1,400 feet deep when it crashes. It goes down to about 1,700. No, sorry, the rig crew are at 1,700 feet when we first see them. They need to go down below 2,000 to get the submarine. And then the chasm that Ed Harris goes down is 2.5 miles deep. Okay, so the average depth of this film is just over half a mile deep. Minus 2,848 feet deep, 868 meters. So yes, this is the deepest film we've covered in a long time. I've expanded my graph of comparing the 6 films we've got so far, the Deep Sea Trilogy, Deep Rising, The Shadows and the Abyss. Those other 5 films are now just all on the same plane. They're basically on 0, just so I can fit the minus 868 meters deep of the Abyss. So this has skewed everything out completely. I'm going to need a separate graph to look at the shallower films and have this one as an anomaly off somewhere else. And in terms of blueness, it's about 39% blue, which is a little bit bluer than Deep Sea 1 and 2, not quite as blue as Deep Sea 3, nowhere near as blue as The Shallows. Because whilst a lot of this is underwater, and underwater scenes are normally 100% blue, when they're like underwater exploring the submarine, it's like when they're actually inside the sub, it's not that blue. It's mainly like grey because they're like underwater but indoors. And all of the stuff with the aliens, completely underwater, but mainly purple, because the aliens are purple. Like, not quite as blue as you might think it was. Anyway, a lot of stuff indoors, not as blue as I thought it was going to be, but still bluer than Deep Blue Sea.
It's pretty blue.
Pretty blue.
Oh, I love that you do this math. It makes me happy.
I know.
I'm glad that people enjoy it, because it does take a little while.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate you, Jay.
Thank you.
And Heather, he liked The Shallows a lot.
I love The Shallows. Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Better than the Abyss.
You're not a shallower?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's good. You should watch it.
80 minutes. Easy.
It's got a seagull in it.
Does it take place in the shallow water?
Oh my god, it does. How did you... Yes. It's,
Okay,
in
all
terms of depth, it is not as deep as anything else. It is the shallowest film we've ever seen.
I'm absolutely in then. I love a movie that doesn't lie to me.
Very shallow, very blue.
We
It's
start
very
off with
literal.
false pretenses, I start to get angry. Now, if this Abyss film started off and it was in the shallows, you'd be very angry throughout the entire film. Lies.
Yeah, the movie was originally entitled a movie in which a former med student, travels to Mexico, gets attacked by a shark in shallow water, and she's stranded on a little oasis island of rocks during low tide. That was the original working title of The
I thought
Shallows.
it was between a rock and a whale carcass. That's the original title. Anyway. I want to see that film now.
Hell yeah.
Anyway,
Sounds like a Steve Coogan, Rob Brydon movie.
it does. With Michael Caine. So, Heather, do
It
you
was
have it?
on my 16. I can't do it, accent. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Look, I'm on the whale carcass. I can see the shark. There is a shark in the water. I've lost it. Heather, do you have any final thoughts on The Abyss?
I think if you appreciate James Cameron films, you'll enjoy this, and you'll appreciate it for all of the things that it is. It is a bit long, but it's worth seeing at least once. It's a movie that did start to sculpt and change the direction that film went in. But of many of the underwater films and Deep Blue Sea type movies, I think this one is probably in the top 5 without even thinking about it. Yeah, it's right up there with Jaws for me, and I'm trying to think of something else, and I really can't. It's fantastic.
I was listening to a podcast from a few years back where they'd found a list of of underwater non-submarine films, and this was the highest grossing underwater non-submarine film apart from Deep Blue Sea. So that made me happy.
I appreciate that too, because I'm not a fan of submarine movies at all.
Das Boot is great film.
It's good.
Never gonna
Yeah.
watch it again.
Nope, me either. A Hunt for Red October. I'll watch The Hunt for Red October
That's fine.
over and
Crimson
over.
Tide,
That's
fine.
about it.
They're
That's the
all
only
fine.
one you got me on. That's it. And
I like some U571.
I liked it for the one time, and I've never watched it again. So
That's one more
They
than
do a
me.
lot of shaky camera and people flying around holding on to the, I don't know, steering wheel of a submarine. They do some good jumping around work in that.
or they had a keg on set there too.
The submarine was just in a giant keg.
There you go. That explains a lot.
If you think about it, the ocean's just one big keg.
It is.
Okay. Mark, any more thoughts on The Abyss?
No, I had a lot of fun. This was a good time. I'm glad we covered it. And listen, just watch the documentary,
Yes,
if
do
anything,
it.
because just the amount of work they put into this movie, I just admire and I really love.
Excellent. Okay, well, Heather, where can people find you?
Oh, I'm on the web sometimes, looking up in the Googles, and then every once in a while I do shows. The Milkcast has been offline for about a month now. We're probably going to go maybe another week or so, and then we'll start back our regular streaming. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us at Milkcast on Facebook and Instagram. I'm still posting funsies all the time for you guys. And we'll be back on Twitch probably next Wednesday, I'm thinking, for our live streaming. And if you want to watch my cat doing yoga, you can follow me at HeaderTime1981.
The cat's getting better, I think.
He is. And he's also getting lazier, so I need to figure this out. Because he's doing less, but he's doing it better.
He's working smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I hate doing that.
On Deep Blue Sea, the podcast, we work dumber. God damn it, we work dumber.
That's right.
But it's
Good.
fun.
Well, listeners, you can find my writing over at lifevsfilm.com, LifeVSFilm. Follow me on Twitter at LifeVSFilm. Listen to me once a month over on the Lambcast, the official podcast of the large association of movie blogs, where I host a monthly movie trivia podcast called Lampardy, which Mark and Heather have both been on. Heather more recently than Mark. And neither of you have ever won, but you always have a good time.
Let it ride.
Exactly.
That's right. I don't need to win. I just show up for the fun season, screwing up everybody's games.
Yeah, I don't like being competitive. I have fun.
I
That's how
agree.
you and I are very different people, Mark.
If I win, I'm like, man, I don't know if I like that.
we had some flat pack furniture. We had some dining chairs delivered yesterday. There's 6 of them. And my wife was like, "Let's race building them," and I took it really seriously. she had a head start and she like built the first one first. And then I built my second one before she built her second one. And then the third one were like neck and neck. And there were like these felt pad feet to go on the bottom. And I couldn't get the double-sided sticky bit off the bottom of it. And I was getting really frustrated, and she won because I was just fiddling with this little bit of felt, and it just really pissed me off. So that's the kind of person I am. Mark, what have you got to plug?
Yeah. Movies, Films, and Flicks. Movies, Films on FLIX. Go check that out. Listen to the podcast and all the reviews. And I just put up a weird piece about Ernest, Scared Stupid. I figured out that the curse that Trantor the Troll placed on the world bloodline led to his demise, because he's like, everyone will become dumber and dumber, and that explains Ernest. But because that magic is on his family and Ernest goes to camp, he fulfills that initiation ritual. And Ernest saves Christmas. He helps save Christmas. He doesn't care. He has the heart of a child because of this curse. And Ernest goes to jail. He survives the electric tear and becomes magnetized because there's just magic on him. He's needed to get Trantor out. So when he releases Trantor, what Trantor doesn't realize is that his curse created the only person that can really stop him. And Ernest stops him. So I wrote a big data piece about that. That was pretty popular. And then I work for Rotten Tomatoes. I work on their Versus videos and their Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong podcast. Watch Deep Blue Sea. It's the second best shark movie of all time. Go check that out episode. And also, I worked on a disaster movie episode, and Mark Ellis name drops Crawl about 17 times, and that makes me very happy. So watch that episode. You'll hear some Crawl love. Made sure that got a lot of quotes in there. And then Film Theory, I got some fun ones coming out for them if you type in Mark Hoffmeyer Film Theory on YouTube. And then I started working for Fandom. So I just did a video about Joker and Harley Quinn. I have another one about Air Bud. And then I have 3 more in the work. So if you go on Fandom and you do By the Numbers, I work on those videos. So that's my new stuff.
Awesome.
So you're not doing much at all.
Yeah. I'm so busy, but I love it. I mean, I'd rather be busy than not. So, I don't sleep much, but it's cool.
Sleep?
Sleep's overrated.
Yeah.
I mean, like you work really hard to get somewhere, and then you get there, and then you're like, I'm good, and then you just stop doing it. So, but it's cool. It's really fun. Like, I think y'all like those Fandom videos. We got some fun ones coming up, and I got some bonkers Film Theory episodes coming up. So I'm very excited. And I did a Quiet Place video, How to Survive It, is coming out late September, early October. And I walked around with a sound, like a decibel meter. And I figured out that like all the attacks and with ambient noises and whispering, and I took walks on gravel, walks on sand, walks on grass. My wife, Megan, recorded the fall off on it. We recorded people running by us at the trail. So I did all this research about decibel noises and how you could stay safe in the world because you're not going to blow them up with a rocket launcher. Some people are like, this is how you survive the Quiet Place. Don't make noise and get a rocket launcher. Like these things survived an asteroid, a meteor that fell to Earth. Like a rocket launcher is not going to kill them. So just, you can live they planted corn in a Quiet Place. They harvested corn. So, I mean, you can live a pretty normal life in this world. So just watch that video when it gets released.
Will do.
That's
nice.
fantastic.
Okay, well, as for our show on the Abyss, thank you, Heather, for joining us.
Thank you for having me on, guys. I missed you.
And next week, we're branching out into the Rennie Harlin filmography by looking at Cutthroat Island.
Beautiful movie.
I'm going to guess less deep than The Abyss is my prediction.
Ooh. You're going to be surprised.
I know very little about the plot of Cutthroat Island.